Science as an institution is not very inclusive. While it's getting much better, there is still a lot of work to be done to ensure that valuable perspectives of people who have been historically excluded from the practice of science are paid attention to. In this video, we'll talk about a few interrelated ideas about who participates in science, who historically and even today gets excluded from science, and what kind of impact that has had on what we know. Diversity makes science stronger. Having a more diverse set of experiences and background among scientists leads to a better, more complete set of perspectives about scientific problems. This, in turn, leads to focuses on new and different research questions, more hypotheses being considered and tested, and a wider variety of criticisms and alternative ideas raised, and, ultimately, more secure scientific knowledge. There are many examples of how new perspectives brought into scientific research by people who have been excluded leads to more important breakthroughs. One involves animal behavior researcher Temple Grandin. Grandin was concerned about the ethical treatment of livestock. She brought her perspectives from her lived experience with autism to her research, and it significantly changed how livestock are managed in slaughterhouses. Now, it might seem like treatment doesn't matter if livestock will be slaughtered anyway, but how livestock are handled in this process significantly influences how much pain and stress they experience. Grandin has described drawing on her experiences of anxiety and threat in considering transport and slaughterhouse processes from the animal's perspective. This led to a number of changes to these processes, and also led to a system for evaluating animal welfare during transport and slaughter, essential for monitoring animal welfare. Grandin also led empirical research demonstrating the effectiveness of these changes. For instance, she proved that visual distractions can cause agitation, leading to worse outcomes for the animals. The neurodivergent perspective that Grandin brought to her animal behavior research led to significant changes in the way animals were handled and better understanding of animal cognition. Throughout history, science has been practiced primarily by wealthy white men. In centuries past, before science became professionalized, it was largely a self-funded leisure pursuit, meaning only those with significant wealth, status, free time, and connections could pursue it. As science developed into the institutions we know today, which exist mainly in universities and research labs, the systemic problems that excluded women, people of color, members of religious minorities, and others from access to many social goods also excluded them from science, or decreased their support in recognition as scientists. Many scientific disciplines and the institutions like universities that house them have attempted to make progress on increasing inclusion, but there's still a long way to go. In addition to the benefits increasing diversity of scientists brings to scientific research, of having more varied experiences and perspectives to draw on, diversity among scientists has the additional benefit of making a broader range of people feel like they belong in science, contributing further to inclusion in the future. Young children who may have interest in pursuing science naturally look for role models that enable them to see themselves as scientists. This can be harder for a young person who identifies with groups underrepresented in science, if they don't relate to the people that they see as typical scientists. Welcoming new scientists with diverse social identities is one of the most important ways to gain new perspectives in science. Another way is to include members of the public as collaborators in scientific research. Participatory research is any scientific research in which members of the public who aren't trained scientists participate in doing the research. Participatory research goes by many names. You may have heard it called citizen science, community-based research, or even action research. Scientists sometimes choose to include members of the public in research efforts in order to increase the amount of data that can be collected. But that's not the only benefit from public participation in science. It can be a fulfilling way for interested students and adults to participate in research that interests them. And it can lead to more informed public, both about the content of science and also the methods, practices, and inferences of science. Some participatory research even involves members of the public in shaping the research aims and methods. These are called co-created research projects. Some scientists think it is important for participatory research to be structured this way when it focuses on topics of community interest, such as health outcomes, local environmental challenges, or community access to services. Involving those members of the relevant communities early in the research process enables scientists to benefit from their inside perspective. This can help the research target issues of genuine community concern in ways that the public will value, and it can help legitimize the research in the community members' eyes. Who gets to participate in science and who gets excluded is an important feature of the way science works. This question isn't just of concern to people who are interested in social justice and equity of access to institutions like science. This is a fundamental issue about what kinds of questions scientists are interested to investigate, what bold conjectures they come up with, and perhaps which methods they use.